Hi everyone, this is Haunted Hearsay. I'm Caroline. I'm here in Donegal and I'm here with Ben, who's down in the capital, Dublin. Hi Ben,
Hi everyone.
how are
Hi
you?
Caroline. Good, very tired today, but happy to
You
meet
know
you and
something,
see
I'm the
you.
same and I haven't done anything. I've come to the conclusion the less you do, the less you want to do. You know, we need some
Yeah,
vitamin D, we need some sunshine to get us out and about again. So I'm still in
that's true.
hibernation.
We're in hibernation, and for anyone who doesn't know, Ireland has like 5 months of winter. So
Yes, and then the rest of the seasons all come in the same day.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But you know that what with global warming, we might just get an early summer round sort of like
Maybe
maybe if we're lucky.
a few more heat waves and a few more
Yeah, we
snow.
could do with
Like
that. We could. Our last year was beautiful, and I think it made the lockdown a lot more pleasant for people. Everyone's gardens looked amazing.
Ireland's ridiculous when it comes to weather because it's cliched, but you have every season in a day. You have big snowstorm every decade that isn't that big by anyone else's standards, but
I know,
everyone
but it is by
loses their
ours.
shit or whatever, and the buses don't run, and you don't go to work, and it's like a snow week thing. And then the last time they didn't have enough salt, and they ran out of salt to salt the roads. So like this is the like
We technically the Irish, we're used to bad weather, but we're fair weather people.
mm,
We're used to the wind and the rain
wind
and
and
the
rain. Yeah, that's our
we don't
specialty.
have severe colds. We don't have severe heat. We don't have severe cold. We're
No.
very temperate, really. We're
Mhm.
moderate people. We
That's why it's so
flourish.
green.
We flourish in the damp, basically,
God.
which is why
Make it
everything.
sound wonderful.
Yeah,
No,
I know.
we hibernate when it's damp.
Yeah, no, we flourish in the damp. Look at everything is so ardent and green because of the damp
Yeah.
climate.
I believe in Connemara now, this is the rumor. In Connemara, there's 40 words for rain.
Really, I would believe it to be honest.
Yeah, in Australia.
There, Connemara, along with Bonifast here in Donegal, are the only two places left in Ireland that still teach the original Gaelic.
Mm.
Whenever they have like students and things like that.
Mhm. It's
So,
like a rite
which
of passage in Ireland to go to,
to go
yeah,
to an Irish school
Irish
and
school.
spend the summer doing a summer school,
Mm.
learn Gaelic.
I went to Achill,
Did you? Yeah.
Achill Island in Mayo. Yeah, it was good. I nearly got kicked out on the first day for saying a curse word in English, and then it was very old school. So can I tell the story? It's got nothing to do with
Yeah. Go for
paranormal, but
it.
this is the Ireland that I grew up in. I'm not that young, so the punishment was my ban on tea, which is the house that owned the lady of the house who owns the house that we were staying in. She was disgusted that I said the F word basically, and she
Now you would
ran.
be about 11 or 12.
Uh, I had my 13th birthday down
Right.
there. Yeah,
Yeah.
we were down for 2 weeks, but usually it's 3 weeks in most of them. My sister went to Iron More, actually. Um, and my dad went to
Cross
Ranafast.
country.
Dad went to Ranafast. But anyway, so I said the F word, and the Banshee rang the headmaster of the school, and he pulled me aside on when we were walking back from sports or something, and he told me to wait at the side of a country road, which is really like one kind of car wide and a ditch. And I had to wait in this ditch, and it was a summer's day, and I fell asleep in the ditch, and then I was woken up like 6 hours later by, or like less than probably 5 hours later, by German tourists who didn't know what was,
Really?
yeah, they didn't know why I was in a ditch, which is fair enough. And
Oh my God.
um so I
Only in Ireland.
and this is so it was like it was far away from my home. I was in the middle of nowhere. I was in this ditch, and I was 12 years old. And then I found the Germans told me how to get to the post office, and then the post office told me how to get back to the school. And then as soon as I got back to the school, I found my friend, and he was on his lunch break, and I ran up to him and I go, "You never guess where I was for the last 5 hours. I was in the ditch." And somebody heard me speaking English, and then I got sent to the office. No, I got in disciplinary, like I got in trouble for speaking English.
Speaking
And then
English.
because if you speak English 3 times, you get sent home.
Wow, that
Yeah,
was very strict.
yeah. I
That was
think
very, very
it
strict.
mustn't be like that in Iron more.
No, I don't think so, but I think I mean, I know that when they go out there, they have a little bit more freedom because it's an island.
Yeah.
And,
Well,
but
so is
I mean,
Ackle. Well, yeah, it
nearly
is.
all of the students that go to Ironmore always go back. It's a
Mm.
beautiful, my nephews went out and done the Irish College out there for several years, ended up as one of the
Kindergarten.
supervisors,
Yeah.
in fact. And just absolute, and he was so quiet when he first went out. We were like, wonder how he'll get on, but he got on brilliant. I remember Edward, now my eldest son, decided once to do the Irish school, and we were living in Dunlow, and it was down to Runafast, and he went down in the morning, and he would have been a day or two late starting, so everyone makes friends on the first
Oh, the
day.
first
So
day.
he
Yeah,
was there, I think it was like the second day, so maybe a day late starting. And yeah, he lasted till tea time. He was on the phone. I don't think
I'm
I
out of
like
here.
I
Yeah.
want to go home. He was only about 10 or 11, like, but it was like, no, I don't think I like. And it was his idea to go, but then it was, no, I don't think I like it. I'm going
I
home.
don't even know what.
Anyway, but we
Carry on.
digress. We're going to go on now. And I
It's
thought we were
darker this moving
going to
forward.
be,
Right?
yeah, into a much darker area. I was listening to the trailer we had for Haunted Hearsay, and the conversation. That was a conversation that we'd had quite a long time ago, several years ago.
Years. Yeah.
And so I thought maybe we'd just go a wee bit back over it. We haven't sort of covered it recently. And it's basically the concept of evil. To you, what do you think evil is? And do you believe it exists?
Yeah. So I think evil is the opposite of love, a force, perhaps the opposite of love. And love not as in love necessarily between two people, just the concept of love or a god or whatever you want to call it, like a high frequency love, the complete opposite of that.
Do you think
Dark
in your lifetime have you ever
evil.
experienced evil? And if so, how would you have described it?
Do you know, I've thought about this like since talking to you about this topic and the experiences in which you've had. And I can pretty safely say I don't think so. I may have crossed people's paths that were very dark energy, kind of low level people.
I had a reason for asking you those questions this week, because I had certain theories, and I wanted to actually talk about the first time that I felt I was in the presence of evil and how it affected me. Now, I was brought up, I believe in God wholeheartedly, but I also believe in Satan, the devil. Well, I believe there's many devils. I believe the concept of good and evil. I believe in the concept good and bad. I believe
Demons.
that we have free will, etc. I actually believe that evil is a man-made entity. It's sort of like from the beginning of time, if you were even to look at it in the biblical sense, in the historic biblical sense, it was when Abel killed his brother, and nobody could have foreseen that sort of evil. But that's an evil that was born of man.
Okay.
This is my concept, because I think we put off a lot of energy. That's just a go with me on this one. Like, I'm not going to start Bible thumping you. But you come forward with that. I think it's an entity that's grown over the years. I think that's where you get your demons from. I believe devils are tricksters, and I think they play on sick minds and then prey on feeble minds, fragile minds. But I think they play on sick minds, and seriously, I think an awful lot of the evil in this world is 100% man-made, but it's an entity that's developed an entity of its own. It's a bad energy. To give you an example, it's like you go down through now, I've had several experiences where I've been in the presence of evil. That's how I know it's not an everyday occurrence. Unfortunately for me, it was on four different occasions. I'll only talk about two of them. But It's not the same as like I'm quite psychic. I've been quite closed off to it for the last few years. I don't really practice as much anymore, but I did when I was younger, and I was very open to energies around me. And sometimes, if you were in a city or something, you'd bump into somebody, be accidental, but everything about that, you'd be like, oh, you'd literally, for no reason at all, not because of how the person looked, or it's just something. It's like a wee electric shock, and you get that. Oh, and
I
you
feel like,
try to.
sorry to interrupt you, but I feel like just because you asked, the closest thing that I've experienced to that is looking at someone's face and knowing by their eyes that they're not someone I want to be anywhere near when I don't know.
Yeah.
And that I wouldn't have necessarily, well, I would, in my head, it's like the evil eyes, like they have the evil eye.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean?
Well, you see, I'm going with this first before I go to the explanation of my first experience, because I want you to understand the complete difference.
Mm.
And so, I mean, it's like with bumping into people or sometimes accidentally touching people, and you get a bad vibe and you've got bad energy off that pair for no reason. You've never met the person before, you know nothing. But probably in the same way, sometimes you'll bump into someone, you get an electric shock, and you'll go, oh, who are you? You know, and it happens. It's a fleeting moment. So it's a good vibe. It's a good energy.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that this bumping in and you get bad vibes and bad energy all the time. Not everybody's like that. But the reason I'm saying that is because I was very open to vibes like that, and I would distance myself from people that I just didn't feel their energy was good or anything about them, you know, was approachable, and rather be rude. I've just distanced myself. And back 1985, myself and a gentleman that I was engaged to at the time, we were traveling around Europe, and we spent the summer in Yugoslavia, which is it was a wee village called Porridge, which I think is now, it's either Slovenia or Croatia now. It's up near the Alps. And we were staying there. We spent the summer there. So we were heading back to England, and to go up, you would go up through the Alps, but you're literally going from, which was a communist country at the time, into a small part of Italy through the border, and then into Austria. The whole thing's about a mile and a half. You're going through 3 borders type of thing. And back then, the Italians were like something out of a Mexican movie, you know, with the big long mustaches, and sitting there, you know, they're just, it was so slow. I remember we were going through, and it took us a few hours to get through the 3 border posts because we were coming out of a communist country. And we decided, because on the way in, it was cheaper. We'd come through this tunnel from Germany, landed in Austria. I remember coming out of this tunnel, and it was like the mountains beside you, the valleys below you. It was just pure Heidi country, magical, but very expensive. Yeah, but very expensive. And we were young and we wanted to spend the summer there. So we were, you know, and yeah, so we were really on a budget. But on the way back, we just didn't want to stop anywhere, you know, across the Italian border, or because it was just taking too long. But at the same time, we didn't want to go into that big long tunnel heading to Germany without stopping and getting coffee and something to eat. So there was a garage. We literally pulled in off the main road when we come down from the, you know, literally your hills the whole way down, coming down from the border points. And there was a garage. So Aidan filled up the car, and there was this building. Didn't have a lot of windows, traditional Austrian house where the windows are up higher and things like that. And they had restaurant signs. So I thought, well, go in there and
still
get
a bit weird though that they didn't have a lot of windows.
It was one of those rooms where none of the windows were eye height, if you know what I mean.
But that sounds like it's on purpose for some reason.
Yeah, it was just above. So, I mean, I think it was a house that was converted in, like a grand big house at some time. But I don't know whether that would have been a shed that was downstairs at one time or whatever.
Yeah.
We've gone in. It was light enough in, and we sat down, and a man came over to serve us, and then happened to notice there were 4 men sitting over in the corner, and that was it. The room was big enough, and that was it. You know, paid no attention. Just came in, sat down, we got the menu, and I started to feel staticky. That's the only way I can describe it. I started to get a bit of static, yeah. And I thought, God, and I thought maybe I'm sitting, maybe the seats, you know, not proper leather or whatever. And sitting there, and the next thing, it was like a guy come over to us first of all that took our order, and you're talking about the eyes, and it was just the way he was like he was standing sneering at us, you know, like, you know, use foreigners, use, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, what do you want? You know, that attitude.
Weird.
And so we ordered our food, and he went out, and I just happened to turn around and I looked over, as you do when you're sitting somewhere, at the four that were sitting in the corner, and it was like there was a black cloud around them. It's really hard to explain. It wasn't a cloud, it wasn't dense. There was a blackness to them. It's like I glanced at them and there was a blackness to them. And I mean sort of in the
visual.
Yeah, it was like there was a blackness to them.
Like a cloud.
Yeah, it was instant. And I remember I turned and I looked at Aidan, and the first thing he says, Jesus, what's wrong with you? I'd gone pure white. The hair on my head was standing, the hair at the back of my neck, all down my arms, pure white. And I was trembling, and I was just overcome with sheer terror. And I says, we have to get out of here right now. And he says, what the fuck's wrong? He says, we've just ordered food. I says, I don't care. Tell them I'm sick. And I got up and I ran out. And he got up and he done the same. And we got over to the car. I says, don't stop, get in the car. We didn't talk until we got into Germany. And that tunnel is like 27 miles. I can't even remember how long it took us, but it seemed to take us forever.
Through a mountain.
And we didn't talk until, and he was like, what was that about? And I says, I don't know. I've never felt anything like that before in my life. It was sheer terror. I felt like I was being surrounded by, it was just sheer terror. I couldn't get over the feeling, and I knew I was in the presence of evil. Don't know who they were or why, or maybe it was, no, I was going to say maybe it was something happened before, but it wasn't. It was very much those four men that were sitting in that corner.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's terrifying, really.
And that was the first time that I knew there was no mistaking it. I always think, I say to people, if you think, oh, I wonder, is this it? Then it's not it. Because if you're in the presence of something like that, there's no doubt. You're not sitting thinking, oh, well, that was really scary. There's no doubt whatsoever. You know when you're in the presence of it, you will feel it. It's like...
Then I probably haven't really, unless it's in like a passing someone really quickly or something, but...
That's what I mean. You see, you wouldn't necessarily...
That's if I don't like someone or if they're evil. It's sort of like... People do heinous crimes and evil things, and things
absolutely.
That people that aren't evil can't even conceptualize.
Yeah, but I'm quite sure they're giving off that energy. That's the point. I mean, whoever these people were, whatever they'd done, and it might not have been all four, but the thing is, when I looked to the corner, the way I can explain it is, do you know if your skin looked like it had no pigment? And all you could see was all the blood and veins and everything?
Like dead.
No, as if you had no pigment and you could see through to everything underneath.
Okay, yeah. Like transparent.
Yeah, but it looked, you would imagine it wouldn't be light, it'd be really dark. Okay. That's what I glanced at when I looked over at the four of them. It was like they had no pigment. It was just this darkness. It was horrible and only lasted a second. I remember I turned around and I was literally, I didn't drink then.
Do you think there's people that did bad things, or do you think or do you think they're like...
I think there were people that did bad things, yeah. I think I was in the presence of evil. I was in the presence of four really evil men. And whether the guy that was serving us had anything to do with it, or maybe it was somebody that housed these people. Right, but there was something about him I didn't like either.
Yeah, well, from your first encounter
to the same extent as the four behind me. And Aidan knew me well enough to... he's like, yeah, not going to sit and go, oh, really? I think you're being... Nothing. He's like, seriously? He's out the door after me. Like, no sort of ifs, ands, or explanations. It wasn't until we were actually in Germany. Yeah. And he looked at me and he's like, what was that about? And it was probably by then, it was before I stopped shaking. I'd never known fear or terror. I mean, I've been scared. I've had mates, like, when you're going out, when you're young, guys jumping out from behind old sheds and frightening you in the dark and things like that. That's not, and you are frightened, it's nothing like that. This was just a feeling of sheer terror that absolutely immobilized me. And when I started shaking, so I knew I'd been in the presence, and I thought there was no doubt, absolutely no doubt. I think whether that are people that have demons about them, or they're just plain evil. And you'd like to think that nobody is plain evil, that, that there has to be some reason for their behavior. But the fact, and the sad fact of the matter is that there is people that are plain evil. And you've got to remember 1985, it was within the matter of a year, that country was in the middle of one of the bloodiest wars. Yugoslavia, so...
Oh, was it not Austria that you were in? And you're in,
It was Austria, but I was at the border.
oh, you're at the border,
It
Slovenia.
was literally, you come across from the border, you're literally driving 150 feet across the border and stopping into the first garage on your left. I
Right.
remember that. And this restaurant thing was beside it, but we were the only ones, apart from those four, we were the only ones in it. Because most people would go on into the town to bigger, fancier places or whatever. We were looking for somewhere cheap, you know, we were traveling back after being there for a few months in Yugoslavia. So I'm just saying, yeah,
Yeah,
I
it
don't know.
reminds me of one time. Now, this is mildly off topic, but it reminds me of one time when I was younger. Myself and my friends walked into this old bar that doesn't exist anymore, and we were of age, but it was a regulars local at the time. It doesn't exist now, but it was. We walked in, and everybody turned their head and looked at us, and it was very much, "You're not welcome here."
A strong boad.
And we left. Like, yeah, okay, we'll go to the next bar.
Well, I know a few bars here that would happen when they were open, but it wouldn't be because they're being hateful. It would be because they're being nosy.
Yeah, in Dublin, it's not the case.
Who are you?
Who are you? I don't, in
Who are
Dublin,
you?
it's weird,
Who's
but
your people?
unless it was a crime place, which I don't think there's many of them.
Yeah,
But anyway, back to evil. So that's
back to
the,
you.
so
I don't
not
know. It
that,
was something I've been going over it this last few days, and yeah, and I thought I've listened to that again, and I thought there's different aspects of it. But you do know when you're in the presence of that, you know there's no coating that in any form or fashion. But
you also
yeah,
have possessions, like
yes,
from The Exorcist, like like an exorcism.
yeah. I think evil is on many different levels, you know.
Yeah.
But I do believe it to be an entity. I
Hmm.
believe it to be, I believe it to be a man-made entity, but I believe it to be an entity. And it's almost like, you know that old saying, you put out bad vibes, you'll get bad vibes, you put out good vibes, you'll get good vibes, you know. It's that to an extent, but I think we're not talking about people that, you know, sort of like cheat their taxes or, you
Yeah.
know, take a grape for free at the supermarket or something like that. We're
No,
not talking about
there's,
that kind of bad behavior. We're talking
it's more
about people,
sadistic than that.
yeah, exactly. People that are evil,
Mm.
you know, and they are out there. And there is an element as well that unfortunately that are enabled. And it's I'm not saying all rich people, by the way, before I start this conversation, I'm not saying all, not by a long shot. This is a small minority of people. And
Mm.
to enable them to act out or whatever it is they want to do, you know, they've earned enough money, they have enough security, we can't say that that doesn't happen. It does. We've
Mm.
seen it when Epstein
Yeah,
was exposed and all the people that were exposed along with him. Now,
still
I mean,
going
the
on.
Americans, yeah, it is. Of course, it's going on. It was going on for a very long time. They
Oh,
can
but
make all the
also
excuses
the
they want.
trials and there, it's kind of that whole story, the
Yeah,
prosecution.
because it would be very normal for 15 and 16-year-old girls from housing estates to be mixing with royalty and billionaires, wouldn't it?
Yeah,
For just friendly reasons.
they need to be
And they want
dragged.
us to buy that. They want us to believe that. So,
I don't know. It's
no,
a big conspiracy as well. There's all sorts of things going on with that story.
absolutely. You see, that's an element of people that think, you know, they're above the law.
Yeah,
They've got
yeah,
more money than a small country, so they really think that they're above the law. And that's another entity in its own. That's another evil.
yeah,
Yeah, it's there, it's out there in the world, but I don't know. Are we becoming more accepting? Because the amount of people that were sort of on their side, especially the likes of Prince Andrew or Donald Trump, and they had big involvements. But it's like, oh no, they're good people. They couldn't be involved. But they were involved. It's like, you know, that attitude of if you're rich or you're this, you can't be doing, or if you're good looking, you
well,
can't be
it
doing.
definitely smashes open the door on whether rich people are doing this. There's the evidence. Like in the
Oh,
last
I'm
few years.
like not all rich, but I'm just saying this is an element
Yeah,
that have
yeah,
enabled
no,
them.
absolutely. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like,
If somebody sets out and they have that mindset, then they're going to do whatever it is they can to put them in a position where they can
well,
do
this,
comfortably and get
so you
away with
have
it.
obviously people that say there's people that murder people, people that take lives, people. Then you have religions that are, or like Satanism and dark witchcraft,
But
and
that's a different kind of evil. You see,
totally.
that's
Yeah,
not that's a different kind of evil from what I'm talking about. This energy that I
it's
believe
like,
is an entity that's man-made.
yeah,
When you start to talk about devil worship, etc., you're talking. I believe that's a different
that
level.
comes from doctrine. So
Yes.
half of it would, and then half of it comes word of mouth down from various religions, and then on the other hand, then you have energies, and who knows, it could be even dimensional, um, like interdimensional entities that are just dark. Do you know, if you have a spectrum from sort of light to dark, you know, with your, I think about this quite a lot, but I never really verbalize it. If you have a piano octave, you have your high notes and your low notes, and then you have, let's say, a rainbow spectrum, and then light separates into like those 7 colors, and when you spin that, it makes white. You know, there's all these like wavelengths and all these kind of physics things that have high frequency and low frequency, high energy and low energy, sort of.
I agree with you to an extent, but I don't think it's that black and white. I
Okay.
think there's so many different levels to it. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it's like you can get people that have committed absolutely terrible things, and then it's come round to, in history, where people say they were possessed with something. But then you get
Yeah,
people that commit really heinous crimes that aren't possessed with anything, and they're in complete control of their faculties.
and they're just evil
That's an
because
entity in its own. That's an evil that's man-made,
they could be
and
missing
that can be
something in their
worse than anything that
consciousness.
we can imagine.
Yeah,
That's sort of occultish, as it were.
yeah, yeah.
I don't know. I just felt we should just I thought at the end of January, everybody's feeling probably really blue.
No, I think
Or
it's
you
like,
decide to give in to your evil urges and start giving a go at people. It'll soon be spring. It's
be
nearly
nice,
here.
be nice and sound to people.
Yes. As a whole, I mean, I've met more people that have done good. I've met more people that are nicer on a whole. I mean, when it comes to sort of met people and you think they're a bad one, they're very low on the list.
You
Truthfully,
can
they are
have
very
like
low on the list.
assholes, you know.
But I don't know. I wonder, are we becoming complacent in this decade? Are we becoming
Yeah,
complacent because people that have money and power and position have been getting away with things that in the ordinary run of life they would be in prison for? And
yeah,
that's been quite evident on national news for the last year. And we've noticed it more probably because everybody's at home watching what's going on in the world. So
yeah,
there's no hide, and then with multimedia, there's no hiding behind things because do you know what? We filmed it. We're showing everybody. There's not the same censorship that there was before. So
yeah,
do you think the lack of censorship of things you're finding out about what's going on in the world, we're not as shocked anymore, and we might becoming a wee bit more complacent.
yeah. I
It's
think
over
so.
there. It's nothing to do with
Yeah,
us. That kind of attitude.
I think, to be honest, so yeah, that's definitely happening, and it's definitely happening for all sorts of things, like celebrity world, the celebrity thing, and um, just generally social media, people's telephones. There's
Yeah,
all
there's the
sort
good
of,
and bad to it. Like, I mean, it's great if you're stuck at home, you can talk to people all around the world. That's fabulous. For people that are stuck at home now, they can do their schooling online, etc. That's fabulous. But there's also that element then of the people that want to take advantage,
of people. Yeah.
of vulnerable people. They're using this medium.
Hmm.
The same.
Yeah.
You always, if somebody wants to do wrong, they're always going to find a way to do it. Like, whether we have this or not.
Yeah, that's true. So I don't really have a lot of, sometimes I don't have a lot of faith in humanity as a whole. Whereas on an individual level, I've met a lot of very kind and nice people in my life. So
I've been very lucky. I've been very blessed, and most of the people I've met in my life, well, obviously this is not the ones before mobile phones because we lost touch with everybody before mobile phones. But now in this era, it's especially from working on the ferry for so long, my brother's ferry in Burtonport, for so long. I met thousands and thousands of people there over the years who were, and people that were always really nice and send you cards and send you books and
Mhm.
send you thank you.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a long time ago. Listen, as you can see, we were sort of like grasping at straws tonight, covering an old subject. This is a subject we'll cover again in the future. But it was just a
Did you
sort
say
of
you had another story? Or
yeah.
the man on the ferry, or do you not want to say that one? I can
Yeah,
cut
do you know what? Well, actually, it was one of the times I was working on the
not to
ferry.
say anything.
Well, I don't know their names, so I can't, and they weren't locals.
Yeah.
They definitely weren't locals. It was during the summer, and they've arrived down for the 10 o'clock ferry. That's the ferry they got on. And it was a couple, two guys. And one of them, he actually looked like a cop. Everything about him, right down to the boots, everything about him,
Yeah.
apart from the fact that the two of them had obviously been up all night and they were going to go out for a romantic run on the ferry. And I remember I came up and I spoke to the one I thought looked like a cop first, and the other guy came in. I mean, the other guy came and sat down beside him. I swear to Christ, it was like a coldness. It wasn't the sheer it was like a coldness, first of all. It was like just a draft went right through me and froze me through the core. And I remember looking at him, he didn't even lift his head up. And again, it was that blackness.
Yeah.
That blackness, and it was at a glance. And I remember I looked at your man, I looked at your man, I went beetroot instead of white. This time I went beetroot because I just got such a fright that I thought that my reaction was really obvious. And I'm standing
Yeah.
giving them tickets for the actual run, and you don't want to be standing going, oh my God, who are you? Like, that kind of thing. But yeah, I remember actually walking back into the wheelhouse, and it was James that was on. I just, oh my God, that guy gave me the creeps. And I avoided him for the rest of the run over.
More than just
and
one person.
I thought maybe, maybe it was morning run, but I can see coming back the exact same, that glimpse, and it was that blackness. And it wasn't the guy with him. Wasn't the guy with him, even though there were a couple, I'd say, that just met up. It wasn't the guy with him, but this other fella, he was blonde, I remember that. And I'm not sure whether he was Dutch or something.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure. I knew he was content, but if it was French or German, I think I might have understood. I'm not sure.
He
But
just had like evil.
it was
vibes.
just, I mean, coming back, I'm not going up to get the tickets off them. I wouldn't even go back up near them. I didn't want to be anywhere near him. And the guy hadn't spoke to me. He hadn't looked at me. Nothing. And as I say, and I stood and said hello to it, and then it was just that whoosh. And I went right on. All right, okay, and straight, and off. And then when they came back on, it was again that glance, and you seen the blackness, and it was that feeling that came over me of sheer terror. Then, it wasn't just a coldness; it was just the whole thing. I went, I'm not going near them. I wouldn't even walk past them. I came the whole way in from Arnmore to Bartonport. I wouldn't even walk past them on the deck, and I'm supposed to go around and count everybody. And Michael had to do it, or whoever else was on with me at the time had to go around and count everybody, because I just wasn't leaving the wheelhouse or the safety of me standing beside the skipper while, it was just, I knew whoever that person was, that they'd done something really bad in their life, and that energy was attached to him. That evil
I've
entity.
heard of that happening before, that sort of psychic, I don't know what it's called, but like when a negative energy attaches onto somebody, but it's not really a possession, it's more of a psychic mental attack. Do you know what I mean? Like it wouldn't be like your horror movie possession.
I mean, the fear I felt on the second run coming back was the same as the fear I felt the time I was in Austria.
Yeah.
But it wasn't as immediate as it was in Austria. It was once I noticed him, so that I didn't have to notice them behind me in Austria to feel the sort of, it was like a whoosh come down, and you kind of glanced over it, and I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, what did I just see? What is that? It wasn't quite the same, but the fear was the same once I noticed him, if you know what I mean. So I felt like it was more something attached to him. I don't know. I mean, I'm not an expert. I'm not going to claim to know.
Yeah, you can't speculate other than that, but like it's fascinating.
It was just a feeling, and I remember, and I was disturbed for literally the rest of the week, coming home every evening, and just sort of that, you felt you had to shake it off.
Yeah.
Because you were near it, that you were near that sort of evil, and you just had to shake it off. It was horrible. And I mean, I was born in Glasgow. I used to go down to Belfast, etc. And you would think that you would encounter a lot more in cities like that. No, absolutely not. I mean, I can hand in my heart say no.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking people that are, bad uns or criminals, or, I'm talking about actual
pure evil.
Yeah, pure evil.
And do you think you've picked up on it because you're more like psychic? or do you think
Well,
it's like,
yes, I do. But the thing is, I remember the skipper at the time saying, there's something about them, there's a
yeah,
funny.
yeah,
I
yeah,
said, well, I don't get the other guy. I
yeah.
definitely didn't get it with the other guy, but just this one that was with him.
And in Austria, did Aiden have the same? Well, when he asked you about it, did
No, when
he?
he took one look at me, when I glanced round, took one look at me, because he was quite used to me coming out with things and saying things to people. At the
Yeah,
time, I was a lot more open about being psychic back then, and I
yeah,
would stop random people sometimes and go, "I think I have a message for you."
yeah.
I haven't done anything like that in well over 20 years. Oh, well, that's not true. But anyway, I
Bit
digress.
anyway. Yeah.
But yeah, no, he wouldn't necessarily been a believer, but I had proved myself far too many times for him not to believe me,
Mm. So, but
so
when, yeah, so he did, but he didn't pick up on it himself at all.
no, he didn't say anything. I'm literally talking the minute we sat down, this guy walked over to it's
It was
that quick.
immediate. Yeah.
It was that quick. This guy, and I remember looking at him, and it was, the eyes. I wasn't getting the same thing off him, but it was the eyes, and he just made me feel uncomfortable the way he looked at me. And I kind of looked at Aiden, and Aiden didn't say anything. And then I just literally, it was that quick. I felt something, just a denseness, and I just glanced, oh my God, it was immediate.
Mm.
And I almost burst out crying. I got
Oh,
such a fright, I almost burst out crying. I turned around, my face went pure white. And when I say my hair was longer then. And when I say my hair stood out on end, it literally, like a cat's, stood out on end. And you could see it on my arms. I was quite tan, so you could see the sort of white hairs in my arms. And it was just instant, that sheer terror that came over me. And I just looked at him, and he said, "What the fuck?" I
oh
says, "We need to get
God.
out of here. We need to get out of here now. Just tell him I'm sick." And literally out the door. That was how quick it was. And Gaven was sort of going out the door shouting over to him, "Man, just cancel that order. We have to go." And we didn't. I remember trying not to run to the car.
To make
That's
it
how
look
scared
like,
I was,
yeah,
trying
yeah.
not to run. There was nothing said to us. There's nothing happened. It was just immediate. And I think I frightened Aiden more.
Mm.
Whether he picked up on it, I don't know. He could have done, but I think my behavior scared him.
Yeah, of course.
So it
It
would be
would.
hard to
Well,
say
the
that
whole
he
thing, yeah, that
did.
sounds really atmospheric, you know.
It was horrible. Now,
Yeah.
I mean, I know I'm not going to make up things to make it sound more. It's the same with that episode on the ferry. I'm not going to make up, "Oh, this happened or that happened,"
It just
because you
was
don't
what
need
it
to.
was.
When you're near somewhere where you've got that vibration, that energy that kind of overtakes you briefly. And as I say, this is not normal. Bumping into someone, this is not normal by any. As I say, I've only ever happened to me 4 times in my life, and it terrifies you, grips you straight through to your soul.
Mm.
It's a horrible. I'd say people probably doing investigations in haunted
Come up,
asylums have probably come across that
yeah,
sort of thing.
absolutely. Yeah,
I would avoid places like that, but
yeah.
I'm
Well,
sure other people have experienced it the same way.
I'll
But that
just
was my experiences.
I will hopefully get to go, and it was on our list on the most haunted buildings, Charleville Castle. I had an experience where I got a blinding headache as soon as I arrived, and I knew that it was because I was inside the actual castle, because I didn't have a headache. When I left the castle, the headache went away. When I was in the castle, I had the headache. And I wondered the whole time if that was because of evil.
Well,
Not
it could
evil,
have been.
but
It
just
could
like,
have been a sort of like an existing aura or energy of bad things that happened in the castle.
yeah,
And that sort of, that energy off the building is not a good energy, and you could be more susceptible to it. The difference between something like that and being in the presence of pure evil is you feel like there's an entity moving around. It's not just that you're sitting beside bad people. There was a blackness around them. There was an entity, there was a blackness around. It's so hard to explain, but as I say, it was like glancing at them, and it's like one had a t-shirt, so it was like, it was almost like a black arm, black faces, black hands, but not black, sort of as if you were looking at someone that had no skin.
mm, that's
That kind of darkness. But there was that sort of, it was a glance, and it was like a cloud. It was like a black corner of this building and these 4 people in it. The other guy, it was outside and it was on the ferry, and maybe that's why I didn't notice it immediately until he sat down. And I remember it was just that coldness that just went shoom. And then I kind of looked at him and I was like, oh, and I remember just going red. I got embarrassed because I kind of went like that. And I went into the wheelhouse and I hadn't seen the blackness the first time, but coming back, you see, I was looking out for him then. So I was more aware. And yeah, as I say, I don't need to make anything up, because it's, if you've ever experienced that feeling, you know what I'm talking about, and you don't need to add anything to it. That's the sort of fear that doesn't leave you for, several weeks, or at least several days anyway. I know that within the Germany one, it was at least several weeks. And with that case in the ferry, it was at least a week. I was coming home most evenings and the lights on in every room in the house, etc. Not that I felt anything followed me home, but it was just every time I thought of it, I shuddered, had this scary sort of, yeah. So that was just, if anybody else has had any experiences like that, and I would imagine if you're involved in ghost hunting, etc., you would have to have had something. You think about some of those buildings, especially when I say that again, the asylums, where things went on worldwide in the name of medical advancement.
Yeah, exactly. Where people murdered a lot of people.
Oh yeah, sure. I mean, we have the baby homes here in Ireland, and what was done. I mean, it's just horrendous, absolutely horrendous. And that is an evil. And that's an evil that's been covered up on a governmental scale. Would that be the correct terminology?
Yeah, that's very current at the moment as well.
Yeah. I mean, what, over 800 babies in one place alone that were murdered?
Yeah.
And not just babies, like toddlers and youngsters.
Well, they weren't all necessarily murdered. They died in the care of.
Yeah, but okay, maybe murder is a very harsh word to say it, but it would have been manslaughter, because they died from lack of care. They died from starvation. They died from being beaten maybe once too many. They died. Yeah, it's okay then, manslaughter then. But they weren't killed. It wasn't an accident. These weren't 800 accidental deaths.
No, and it's many more than that. They've just exposed.
Oh, absolutely. If that's what we know, that's only the tip of the iceberg. That's what we can see. That's what we know. And it went on in so many different institutions.
My mum was born in the, excuse me, my mum was born in the sister laundry to that one. I don't know which, it's in Limerick or something. It was the same order, but it was.
Yeah. Well, that's where my eldest son was born, in Dublin, same with the Magdalene sisters. But
I'm sure there's, you probably have your own stories, but I'm sure.
Pleasant. Yeah, let me say this, it wasn't a pleasant experience, but I mean, bar one nun that I had trouble believing that she really wanted to be a nun, the rest were lovely people.
Yeah.
I had more bother with the people I was staying with. We were in cells and the whole thing was quite, off. And I was only there for less than a month. I was there. And
what years was that?
I was 1982.
82.
Yeah.
So mum was 1961.
I think they closed in, no, that's where I had Edward, not where I was born in Glasgow.
No, I know my mother was born in 1961 in the sister home. So in theory, she could have been put in a well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying, because it was down the road from Tuam.
But that I also wanted to point out that whenever I was there and my experience with them, they were lovely people. But we can't, I hate when I hear that it's like every nun that's ever been involved with that order has been branded with the same as these Tuam nuns, etc. And I know there's been other institutes that were involved. They're not. That's what, again, what I mean about evil. It exists, but not everybody's evil. And because they're associated with something, it doesn't mean, but it certainly feeds on that behavior.
Evil people become like higher up in society because they're evil.
Yeah, I'd say exactly. And I mean, kind of you become complacent. You're afraid to sort of rock the boat because they're the ones with money, or they're the ones with power, that sort of thing.
Kind of psychopath level.
Yeah. Awful, just absolutely awful. I'm going to get us to call it an evening. Back on Tuesday, and I think I've talked Regina into, well, I haven't said it to her yet, but I know she'll be okay. Yeah. Get Regina to come back, and I'll have, I was going to go through my ferry books to see if we could come up with a few ferry stories, and if I can at all get out this weekend. At the moment, there's just gales and storms going up here, but if I can get out at all, I'll go over and get some pictures indoor if I can come across.
yeah.
I don't know. That's if we get out.
Yeah, well,
If not, we'll be back on Tuesday with a few stories. I'm sure you'll have something.
yep.
Maybe we'll chat
I'll
just about
surprise
good
everyone.
old-fashioned ghosts for a change. Oh yeah, by the way, before I forget, I was in Mickey's supermarket here in Gweedore the other day, and there was a Bangarda there. So I decided to accost her. I went over and I was like, "You didn't by any chance ever serve in Dublin?" And she's like, "No, I've served in Mayo and I've served here in Donegal." And so she was trying to think of anyone she could think of.
Yeah.
And so I told her why. I said, "You know that I thought it was Vanna police station. It's not. It's Donnybrook."
Donnybrook, yeah.
I mean, you know, it's built on the site of a mass Viking grave. And she says, "Is it?" I says, "Yeah." She says, "You try ringing them," and I laughed. I says, "Well, could you imagine that phone call? You know, hi, have you noticed any hauntings in the jail?" She says, "I know." She says, "I probably wouldn't even give you that information even if we did have, like, you know."
I've been inside the police station. I'd never film in there, but I wasn't there I was there for the reason that getting a passport stamped. And it
Yeah.
wasn't even my passport, it was my friend's passport or whatever it was. It wasn't stamped, it was a form or something. And it had a weird vibe, but I don't know if that's just because it's an old,
Well, I'm not
dingy
giving up. I'm
police
not giving
station.
up. Yeah, sorry for interrupting you. I'm not giving up. As soon as I find a guard here that's served in Dublin,
You're
maybe they'll,
fine.
you know, I don't think it's something if we phone up that they're going to tell us, "Oh yes, I think the guard the station's haunted." I don't think we're going to get that. But if we can get somebody on the QT, you know, did you ever hear any stories?
Yeah,
There's bound to be. They would
yeah,
know better than to
definitely.
be in pub, but there's bound to be stories. There has to be something. I mean, we can't get into the ambassador's house.
No.
So let's see if
I
we can look
felt
at the
weird. There was
garden
just too many cameras there. Yeah, cool. Okay, well, in that case, let's call it a night, and I'll chat to you Tuesday.
Yes, definitely
Chat to
come back.
everyone on
It's
Tuesday.
just I don't know. I think this week is sort of the end of January blues.
Yeah,
As I say,
yeah.
I've been about as useful as the G in lasagna for the last week. So
That's an interesting phrase.
listen, we'll talk to everybody soon, and we'll be back with some more haunted hearsay. Thank you for anyone that's tuning in. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. Yeah, it'd be much appreciated, and we'll chat to you all soon. Bye.